So I thought tonight I would talk a little bit about mindful media consumption because and this is inspired from the principle from Ayurveda that everything we consume, everything we take in, we have to digest, we have to process. And that applies to food, of course, and food and drink and physical things like that. So if we drink or if we eat good, healthy food, it nourishes the body, it makes us feel good. If we eat junk food, it doesn't nourish the body, it makes us feel bad, it causes disease. Well, the same thing applies with non-physical things. So the same thing applies with the emotions we feel and the media we consume. You know, any kind of anything we're exposed to, we have to process that. And in this day and age, with the political climate of the country and the world, there's a lot of negativity out there in the media, and especially on the news, on the internet, on Facebook. You can be exposed to a lot of negativity. And so it's important to be mindful of what you're exposing yourself to. Now, we can't just stick our heads in the sand and try to ignore the world and hide from all the negativity. We can't just ignore it. We do have to pay attention to the world. We have to be aware of what's happening. We have to keep an eye on the news. But we have to find the right balance of keeping ourselves informed and engaged with the world, but not to the point that we're taking in so much negativity that it causes us pain and causes us disease. And particularly with the news, because the news, the main goal of the news is not to keep you informed of what's going on. The main goal of the news is to keep you watching. And one of the main ways they do that is by playing a lot on fear, because fear is something that is hard for us to ignore, where our brains are programmed to look out for fear and look out for danger. And so whenever the news or any media outlet talks about something we need to be afraid of, we're kind of automatically drawn into it, right? It's hard to resist something that might affect our safety. And so the media is motivated to keep our attention by playing on our fears. And politicians do this too. I think everyone's quite aware of this. So just keep that in mind, that you do have to watch the news and stay aware, but be conscious of how much you're exposing yourself to all that negativity. I stopped watching the news during COVID because I noticed every time I would watch it, I would just get depressed. I got into a habit of watching the PBS NewsHour because it's really well done, really well informed, but I was still just, every time I watched it, I'd be depressed. And so now I pretty much just get news through reading. So I feel like when you read something, the emotional output of it is reduced compared to video or even audio. So I found I've just kind of go and check the headlines, maybe read a few stories if something piques my interest, or if there's something not clear that I feel like I should be more informed on. But if you find yourself getting really upset about how things are going in the world, you might take a look at how much energy you're taking in, how much of that negativity you're taking in from the world. And I mean, it may seem that we have to be upset right now because there's so much craziness going on. There's so much bad stuff going on. It seems like the world's really a mess right now. But there's a great quote from Joseph Campbell who said that the world is a mess. It's always been a mess. It's always going to be a mess. And the only thing that we can control is how we react to the world. And so, it's true, things might be a little bit more of a mess now than they usually are, but there's still good things happening out there. There's still positive news. I just saw a story today so remember how the Trump administration opened up Alaska for oil drilling? Well, they just had recently they had the auction for those lands, and hardly any companies bid on it. so hardly, so the whole plan, they were all excited they're going to be able to exploit the Alaska for oil drilling, but no oil companies, hardly any oil companies bid on the land and bought the land. So this is really exciting news, I feel like. And part of it is because the oil and gas industry is in decline right now because of the changes brought about by the pandemic. And so this is really heartening news, right? That at least in this one little aspect, things are getting better, that the oil and gas industry is declining. So that's just one example of how, even though it seems like everything is falling apart right now, there's still positive things to be happy about. Great. So any questions on that? Yeah, I guess for this crowd, you guys are probably pretty aware of that already. Yeah, but I was really struck by that idea from Ayurveda that everything you take in, you have to, not just food, but everything you expose yourself. And that also accounts for um, the TV show. If you watch any Netflix or Amazon or anything like that, all the TV shows you watch, the people you spend company with. So all of that, everything we take in, we have to process. So that it really kind of opened my eyes when I heard that, to be aware of what I'm exposing myself to. And you have a question?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the opposite is true when you're in nature and you're surrounding yourself and taking in um, just, a sunset. I think of you because you've seen so many beautiful sunsets, or, it's amazing the difference how you feel inside when you've had an experience like that versus binge watching the news, and watching violent protests over and over. I mean, they're showing the same stuff over and over, just like at 9/11 or something, where they showed the same thing again and again. And it's just like, you can feel it inside how your body is reacting to it. So it's just something to note, like you can do the opposite and actually feel yourself in a positive way.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, because the opposite is true. Also, when we expose ourselves to healthy, nourishing environments, that nourishes us and makes us feel healthy. So, yeah, go ahead, Carla.
I just have to say, even just this time feels so nourishing. Like from having been watching news and things like that to actually come into this circle. And like, I know you guys, and just the safetyness and the sangha, right? Like the community that we have.
Mm-hmm.
This is so rich and soul food. And so thank you guys. Like, thank you for showing up, and it's really filling my soul. So
Yeah, thank you guys for attending. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. So we have a lot more control over how we feel than we think, and depending on what we expose ourselves to. And thanks, Gina, for bringing up nature, because yeah, that's one of my favorite ways to nourish myself, is to get outside, because then you're just soaking in the stillness and the beauty of nature and the harmony of nature, and then your body processes that and digests that and makes it a part of you. So yeah. And I have a movie recommendation if you're interested. It's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, it's called Absolutely Anything, and it stars Simon Pegg, if you know him. Yeah, so it's a comedy. It's a funny movie, and if you look at the premise, it's gonna sound kind of ridiculous. It's like aliens come and give him the power to make any wish come true. So that's where the absolutely anything comes from. He can make absolutely anything happen, and it's really funny. But it raises some really interesting points about some kind of ethical and moral questions about, would you really want that? Would you really want that ability to be able to make all of your dreams come true? It kind of relates to what I was talking about last week with the Hindu notion of the world as a drama. And when everything is perfect all the time, then it stops feeling perfect. And so kind of similarly, if you can make everything you want happen, then there's no more surprises, right? You have, and that would make life kind of boring. So there's some really interesting ideas that at least made me think about it a lot. And plus it's really funny and heartwarming. So this is the kind of thing that you can bring into your life to counteract all the negativity that's out there. Great. So any other questions?